So our goal here is that you are inspiring, not just competent, not just able to deal with stage fright, but inspiring every single time that you present in front of an audience of any type. That means through any medium. That means through video. That means on stage like I am right here. That means if you are throwing your own event. That means in a boardroom. You know, in any situation where you're dealing with talking to more than one person, this applies. So the first thing is you're going to just answer a question. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think about it. It's going to go by fast, so just dive right in. The first question is, what stands between you and your audience? What stands between you and your audience? The first thought you'll have is, I have no idea. The second thought will be the one you want to write down. What stands between you and your audience? There's something between you and them, and it prevents you from connecting. You know what it feels like to connect. We're going to talk about that more in a minute. What prevents you from connecting? What stands between you and your audience? Okay, start to finish up. And if you didn't get the answer that you're hoping you'd come up with, if it's not in some way magical and spectacular for you, it's really okay. This might be the hardest question to answer as someone who's doing any kind of speaking. You know, I ask this to people who are activists for world peace, talking to people in the UN who are clients of mine, who are doing work for activism, for education. And they're like, I have no idea. Second question, what clarity would you like to have by the end of this time together? I'll give you 30 seconds for that. And you can really come up with anything. What clarity would you like to have by the end of this time together? And remember, we were talking about authentic public speaking, being completely you in front of a group. What clarity would you like to have by the end? So just kind of finish up where you are there. You could have written a couple of things. Ideally, focus on one. Okay, wherever you are, if you would indulge me, just set it down. Even if it's not perfect, because it's really not going to be. This is like a very deep question. I'm giving you 30 seconds to figure it out. Okay? It's just to get you thinking in that direction. So what I'm about to say is actually the secret to connecting with people. Can I give you the secret? And it's really the secret. What I'm about to say is not a gimmick. It's not some ploy. It's the secret to connecting with people. Here it is. I'm going to give it to you, and it's still going to be baffling, I promise. But it's really simple. Connection is love. And just like all things in life that are deep and profound, it's incredibly simple. Connection is love. So if your trouble is emotionally affecting an audience, connecting with an audience, something's preventing the exchange of love. So you all are a bunch of high-power women and some men. I see in here as well. And I'm not going to get woo-woo on you. I mean, I can, but I'm not going to. In the most professional way I can say it, to connect with an audience, you have to be willing to be loved by them. It's amazing to me when I work with clients and we really get in there, that's always the problem. It's amazing how unwilling we are, and especially women, how unwilling we are to be loved by the people we're speaking to. It's amazing. We really guard ourselves. And I have a theory as to why that is. So this is my theory. My theory is that the experience of love is so intense that it actually distracts you from surviving. Think about the last time you were in love. You know how you kind of like forget silly little things? You know, you may not care about some of the things you care about on a regular basis. It takes you over. It invades you. You become full of love, full of joy. And when you're in that moment, the silly, practical things that were so important previous to that are a little less important when you're really in love, for example. So it's counter-survival to allow yourself to be deeply connected in love from a stage to an audience. It's counter-survival. You may think, oh, I need to hit my points. I need to get my information across. I can't be having this connection with this audience. Actually, it's the only thing they'll remember about you. It's so true. It's the only thing they'll remember. They'll only remember how you touched them. They may frantically write down notes. They may make a recording of what you're saying. They may look back on it later. But if you touch people at the heart, they will remember you. And they'll remember you a long time later. One of my favorite stories about this is after a client of mine had referred me to someone she knew, I heard from him for the first time ever after a year and a half. I didn't even know he existed. He said, I've been saving up for a year and a half to work with you. He lives in Australia. He's doing a PhD. He said, I know you're the one to help me, and I heard about you, and I just started saving up. And I said, okay. So that's an example of when you touch someone, it makes an impression, even if you don't know it, or even if you don't hear from them, and it will last over a period of time. Isn't that what you want? That your message permeates people, that you reach them? So for those of you who are hearing what I'm saying and kind of taking it in on an intellectual plane, this is a really good time to let that go for a second. Because if you have trouble in front of audiences, it might be because you're not allowing yourself to be loved, which requires you to leave the intellectual plane for a minute. You can kind of oscillate and do what I'm doing right now in front of you, which is think about important facts and then try to connect at the same exact time. That takes a little bit of practice, but not that much. It's easily done. So, as a demonstration of what it feels like to have a connection with an audience and to further have you understand, what this is all about, so you have an experience of it, not just, info that you may forget later, please turn to one person near you and just look at them. You don't have to say anything. Just make eye contact. And if you're in a group of 3, just stand up. You're able-bodied and walk to some place nearby where there's a person who doesn't have a partner. And I'm going to give you 10 seconds to work this out. Okay. Okay, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to say nothing and just look at this human being. And you're only going to have to do it for 30 seconds, and it's going to feel like forever. Wow. You can stop. Is that intense? Oh my God. So just give a little nod of thanks and acknowledgement to your partner. Okay, so here's what to know about what just happened. The actual experience of love is so intense, it's counter-survival. Do you know what I mean now? You're not thinking about your survival when you're doing what we just did. You're not. You're suspended in this kind of eternal moment with somebody. So experiencing love like that, which is arguably the most wonderful part of yourself, meeting the most wonderful part of someone else, is counter-survival. When you really nail it in front of a group, like you're excellent in front of a group, it's because you let yourself be loved by that group. It works out that they're looking at you when you're in front of them, so already you're off to a good start. All you have to do is look back at them. And then you have that connection. If you let yourself be loved by them, it's amazing. And that's through any medium, by the way, not just stage. So being loved by a group starts with you having a real appreciation for yourself and for all that you do. Because if you don't have an appreciation for yourself, you won't let yourself be loved. So, question number 3. You may take out your phone and your what have you. Question number 3 is, what is my favorite thing about myself? Don't worry, you're not going to become conceited all at once in 30 seconds. It's okay. We are so conditioned to not think this way. It's terrible. What is wonderful about me? And just write that down. Let yourself actually admit it. For some of you, it will be actually very hard. And finish that one up. Next question. What do other people think is wonderful about me? What do you get feedback on? It could be anything from a physical attribute to quality that you have in your personality to something else I'm not thinking of. Just jot down one thing. And my 5th and last question for you is, what would you do day to day, naturally, if no one ever paid you? What's that thing that you love? Could be a hobby. Could be something that you just love enjoying. Could be anything. What's that thing you would do or enjoy or take in all the time, even if no one paid you? So, if you were to actually embrace these qualities about yourself, you would actually have a lot more appreciation for yourself. Can you see the direction that this is going? If you actually reflected on what's great about you, and you let yourself recall that throughout the day, or you just let it permeate your understanding of yourself, you'd be way more willing to let people love you, because you'd agree. You'd be like, yes, it's okay if you love me. I'm pretty great, right? Right? And it's not conceited when it's done that way. It's conceited when you're like, yes, love me, you're terrible, I'm great. When you're like, oh my gosh, you're amazing too. I love you. What happens is there's this exchange, and I'm feeling it with you now. So one thing I'm really accustomed to when I'm speaking is that you can hear a pin drop in the room when I'm speaking. It's really fun. And that's because I'm suspended in love with you for the time of my talk. I want you to have that because I can't reach all the people that you know. So I am looking to empower you to touch the people that you're meant to touch so that they feel this too. And then through that connection, you're able to tell them what you're here to tell them. And this is true even of difficult people that are hard to connect with. So in conclusion, you want to be that amazing being in front of other people, own how great you are, and speak from there, right? That's kind of the quick version, quick and dirty version of authentic public speaking, which is my company's focus, coaching that. So the new paradigm that you may want to take away from this time together is that connection is the highest priority of a change agent who is a good public speaker, who's a great public speaker. And connection is the result of allowing yourself to be loved and seen and admired, whatever it is that you're willing to let happen. It makes that bond. And what's beneficial is that if you want to get your message out to the world, you want your words to be strong and lasting. To have your words be strong and lasting, you have to develop the skill of connecting deeply with people. Show them your vulnerable self. I'm being very vulnerable with you. right now. Show them that vulnerability because there's a lot of strength in it. It's actually the strongest place you can stand when you're in front of a group. Let them love you.